What's up? It's your boy Kevin to turn on this motherfucking YouTube shit. Wow, what the fuck?
What's up? It's your boy Kevin to turn on YouTube shit. Hey man, we are Lit team man. Turn. Tell you to motherfucking day. Show you outside. Big Crip and the gang show you outside shit, man. Free Palestine, free Congo, Russia, your thing, and Texas, stand the fuck up. Each day is a new day to be a better version of yourself. Never let somebody bring you down, always stay back. Never let somebody tell you who you are, but also never put yourself in a position you don't belong. Let's stay humble. Let's bring a revolution on the movement. Keep your way first. Coming to you, Black Hebrew Israelite, as a real Jew. We out you. Alright, boom. Today, it's a motherfucking day. Show you outside. Big Crip and the gang show you outside shit, man. Turn up, and the gang go. Bruh. As we see how this world is changing, bruh, I'll be damned if I ever go back to slavery. You know what I'm saying? And we have the past to show us for a reason what we went through. But we got too many coons and buffoons who kiss the white man's ass or just make it harder for black people to even make it in life so they can destroy us and keep the white man system going. We got too many coons and buffoons. It don't matter if you're a female or a woman. I feel like we have niggas who take out black people to kill them, to keep the white man system going. We got bitches who take everything niggas got, set niggas up, take them out, you know what I'm saying, kill them just to keep the white man system going. But then we got real niggas. And this is what we gonna talk about. The ones who fought against the KKK, the racist white people who keep this shit, keep us down and to make us feel like we ain't nothing. But we are more than what we are. We are the kings and queens of the earth. We are the Hebrew Israelites, God's chosen people. And we're looking at what we came through and the people who fought, real niggas, who fought against the KKK and white supremacy. And let's get into it. Shout out to this Unity, the black soldier who terrified the KKK, man. Real talk, nigga. We out here fighting, nigga, hard in a bitch, nigga. Y'all better wake the fuck up, real niggas.
The Civil War had ended, but peace never truly came. In 1865, in the small town of Pulaski, Tennessee, bitter ex-Confederates gathered in secret. What began as a club of defeated soldiers quickly mutated into something darker. A white supremacist army determined to race the Union's victory. They called themselves the Ku Klux Klan. Cloaked in ghostly robes, they rode at night, spreading terror across the South. They whipped, tortured, and lynched freedmen who dared to vote. They burned schools and churches to the ground. They hunted down Republican officials and assassinated them in cold blood. By the late 1860s, the Klan had unleashed the nation's first terrorist campaign. Thousands of black men and women were murdered, not only for claiming their rights, but simply for daring to exist with dignity. Union veterans became marked men. In North Carolina, White Outlaw, a black town councilman and former soldier, was dragged from his home and hanged. In South Carolina, Jim Williams, once enslaved, now a militia captain, was lynched for organizing his people to defend themselves. The Klan thrived in the shadows, preying on the defenseless. But soon, they would discover that not everyone feared the hood. As the smoke of the Civil War cleared and the South bled from defeat, the nation faced a question. What would freedom look like for 4 million newly emancipated men and women? While the Ku Klux Klan plotted in the shadows, the United States Army took a bold step in the open. In July of 1866, Congress passed legislation to create 6 new all-black regiments, the 9th and 10th Cavalry, and the 38th through 41st Infantry. For the first time in American history, black men were written permanently into the structure of the peacetime army. The men who filled these ranks were not ordinary recruits. Men were veterans who had worn their Union blue through the crucible of war. Men who had marched through mud and blood from Antietam to Appomattox.
Most of the people fighting the war was black people. They was getting killed out here.
Now seizing their chance
So the
to
white
stand
man
as
can
soldiers of the
survive.
United States. They were led by white officers. They were given worn-out uniforms, second-hand rifles, and tired horses. But what they lacked in resources, they made up for in grit. These soldiers had already endured a lifetime of hardship. They knew that every mission, every patrol, every battle was more than just duty. It was proof that black men had a rightful place in the heart of the Republic. On the frontier, that proof would soon be written in legend. The American West was vast, unforgiving, and violent. Wagon trains rolled through endless plains, settlers carved out of towns. Railroads cut steel paths across deserts. And in this cauldron, the Buffalo Soldiers became the thin line between survival and chaos. They guarded simply routes, escorted stagecoaches, protected railroad crews from raids. They built telegraph lines that stitched a young nation together. They chased down outlaws and faced hostile bands across Montana, Kansas, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. It was here that their enemies gave them a name, Native Warriors. Struck by their courage, their relentless fighting spirit, and their coarse, woolly hair, called them the Buffalo Soldiers. To the tribes, the buffalo was sacred, powerful, enduring,
I ain't gonna
untamed.
count. White people are the most racist people I've ever seen in my life.
It was a title of respect, a recognition that these
Outside
men
of black
fought
people
with the
being
same
racist to their own
ferocity
people.
and strength as the great beasts of the plains.
Outside seeing black people being racist to their own people, but you gotta understand the white man mostly did that shit to make
every
us
single day that black men could fight and die with honor. By the late 1800s, one out of every cavalry man on the frontier was black. Together, they fought in at least 177 engagements of the Indian Wars. Their courage was tested again and again, often against staggering odds. In 1867, fewer than 70 Buffalo soldiers stood their ground against nearly 900 attackers.
He wasn't no cool-ass slave-ass niggas.
Outnumbered more than 12 to 1, they refused to break. When the smoke cleared, it was the Buffalo Soldiers who still held the field. Their victories were carved into history, not only in the West, but in the very idea of America. The Buffalo Soldiers became a symbol of perseverance, courage, and dignity under fire. But as they built their reputation on the frontier, another battlefield was calling, one much closer to home. Because while they defended the nation's borders, America's first terrorists were waging war against black freedom in the South. And soon, the Buffalo Soldiers would be called to face them. As the Buffalo Soldiers carved their legend on the frontier, their brothers in arms and fellow veterans faced a different kind of battlefield, the South itself. If there was one thing the Ku Klux Klan feared above all, it was armed black men, men who had fought for the Union, carried the pride of victory, and refused to bow again. White supremacists understood a hard truth. These soldiers would never return to quietly to second-class status, and they were right. Across the Reconstruction South, black Americans organized militias and even volunteered Freeman Rifle Clubs to defend their families, schools, and ballot boxes. Many were led by Union veterans who drilled their men with precision and discipline. Their mission was clear: to meet terror with resistance and to avenge the Klan's atrocities with steel and lead. The confrontation was inevitable. In Arkansas, the Klan's night raids grew so violent that Governor Powell Clayton raised a state militia, many of them black troops, to crush the insurrection of 1868. When the governor declared martial law, these men marched into Klan strongholds with rifles and bayonets ready. In one operation, they stormed this town of Center Point and captured 60 Klansmen in a single sweep. That same fall, General Daniel Upham's black militia clashed with Klan guerrillas near Augusta. Shots ripped through the night as the two forces collided. When the smoke cleared, the Klansmen were dead, captured, or scattered in panic. Across Arkansas, similar malicious actions led to hundreds of arrests. By early 1869, the Klan in the state had been beaten into silence. Its reign of terror, broken by men it thought it could intimidate. The message was unmistakable. The Night Riders had finally met opponents who did not run. Meanwhile, the fight escalated to the national stage. Outraged by mounting Klan atrocities, President Ulysses S. Grant unleashed the full power of the federal government. The Enforcement Acts gave authority to wage war on the invisible empire. In 1871, Grant dispatched 1,000 U.S. soldiers into the very heart of Klan country, South Carolina's upcountry. Leading the charge was Major Lewis Merrill of the 7th Cavalry. His men, hardened veterans, some fresh from the frontier, rode through the dark pine woods, hunting Klansmen like outlaws. They raided secret dens, hauled leaders into custody, and shattered the Klan's networks.
Within
months, hundreds of committed terrorists had been captured, tried, and imprisoned. The Klan's so-called invisible empire collapsed into dust. Its grand wizards fled into hiding. Its rank and file deserted or disappeared. By 1872, the original Ku Klux Klan was broken. America had won one of its earliest victories against domestic terrorism.
Y'all never be better than us, nigga.
And at the heart of that victory stood black soldiers, from state militias led by freedmen veterans to the Buffalo Soldiers, whose very presence in the U.S. Army sent a message. The defenders of the Union.
Real niggas, real cowboys, nigga.
The Klan has set out to terrorize black America.
Then the real cowboys, nigga. Black niggas, nigga. Real cowboys, nigga.
Black men with rifles in hand.
Go to that bitch.
It was the Klan that trembled.
Down, nigga.
The Buffalo Soldiers' triumphs against America's first terrorists were only the beginning. After Reconstruction, the all-black regiments carried the flag into nearly every conflict the nations faced. On the frontier, they became the backbone of the U.S. cavalry. Through the 1870s and 1880s, they fought in the Indian Wars with relentless discipline and courage. Prejudice dodged their every step. Yet on the battlefield, they earned respect. 25 Buffalo Soldiers were awarded the Medal of Honor during this period. Their heroism carved into Army history. By the 1890s, their name had become legend. When war broke out with Spain in 1898, the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantry were among the first deployed. In Cuba, they stormed the heights of Queto and San Juan Hills, fighting the shoulders to shoulder with Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders, though it was often the Buffalo Soldiers who led the way. At El Caney and Santiago, their grit under fire turned the tide. Even President William McKinley praised their role in victory. From Cuba to the Philippines, from chasing Pancho Villa with Pershing in 1916 to serving abroad in World War I, the Buffalo Soldiers proved again and again that patriotism and skill knew no color line. For nearly 90 years, from the ashes of the Civil War to the dawn of World War II, these men fought two battles at once. One against America's enemies overseas, and another against the racism they endured at home. Segregated regiments finally ended in 1948, when President Truman ordered the integration of the armed forces. But by then, the Buffalo Soldiers had already carved their legend deep into the nation's story. Their legacy is one of resilience, courage, and defiance. They tamed the frontier. They stood against the Night Riders of the Klan. They fought for a nation that did not always fight for them, and still they endured. In the end, the Buffalo Soldiers did more than terrify America's first terrorists. They proved that freedom can be defended by those who once had none. The sight of black men in Union blue rifles in hand, standing tall against lawlessness and hate, sent a message across generations. The enemies of liberty could not break them. The Buffalo Soldiers secured their place in history as heroes who upheld the promise of American democracy with unyielding faith, iron discipline, and the courage to face any foe.
The man who terrified the KKK.
North Carolina, 1955.
What they talking about, nigga?
The Ku Klux Klan has just finished their rally, and now they're doing what they've always done. Riding through black neighborhoods to terrorize families who've lived here for generations. The local police look the other way, while the government pretends it isn't happening. This was just another night in the segregated South, where wearing a white hood meant you could get away with murder. But in Monroe, something different was about to happen. Something that would shake the very foundation of how black Americans fought for their rights. You see, while Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was preaching nonviolence in Alabama, one man in Monroe looked at those burning crosses, those night riders, terrorizing his community, and decided enough was enough. His name was Robert F. Williams, and his story isn't your typical civil rights tale. Robert was a Marine veteran who came home, looked at the terror in his community, and did something that nobody thought was possible at the time. He armed his people. He organized 60 men, trained them for self-defense, and famously stated, "Nowhere in the annals of history does the record show a people delivered from bondage by patience alone." Considered a hero to many, Robert's story all started with a simple question. What happens when the oppressed refuse to be victims of the system? Robert Franklin Williams was born on February 26, 1925, in a world shaped by the shadows of slavery. His his grandparents, who had lived under the whip and chain, made sure he never forgot what that meant for him. Growing up in Monroe, their stories were filled with warnings about what could happen if black people couldn't defend themselves. Robert witnessed this truth firsthand at age 11. When he saw a police officer brutally beat a black woman on Monroe's main street, the officer dragged her bleeding body along the pavement to jail, leaving a trail of blood as her screams echoed across the street. It was a public spectacle meant to remind the black community of their vulnerability and inferiority. That image would be burned in young Robert's mind forever. But Monroe in the 1930s wasn't much different from the world his grandparents knew. It may have been 70 years since the end of slavery, but the heavy chains of oppression weighed heavy in the air. It was still a prison for black people, just with different chains. White-only signs were plastered across town, back doors and separate entrances for colored folks. Every
coon-ass nigga need to look at this shit.
Every step
Big
off the sidewalk when whites passed by. These
racist ass white people watch. Why do black people so mad? Why do they be so aggressive when they come to us? Bitch, you fucking idiot!
World War II. And like many young black men in the South,
Fucking
Robert
imbecile.
saw an opportunity to better his life up north, Detroit. The
I'll
arsenal
never
of
forget this
democracy,
shit, nigga.
a city where you could
I
make
won't,
real money
nigga. I
working
ain't
in
no
auto
cool ass
factories.
fetch
But
ass
what he
nigga.
found
Nigga,
there
I'm a real
wasn't just a job, it was an education in resistance. 1943.
You got too
The
many
ongoing
stepping fetch
war had
ass
created
niggas.
fierce labor competition between white and black Americans, both struggling to find ways to feed and support their families. Black workers had migrated north by the thousands, drawn by the promise of defense plant jobs, but Detroit wasn't ready. Housing was scarce, and black families were crammed into small, overcrowded neighborhoods. White workers became fearful of the competition, so they staged walkouts when black employees were promoted. In June of that year, white workers at Packard Plant, an automobile manufacturer in Detroit, shut down the entire production line to protest working alongside African Americans. Wow. These guys were serious about their racism.
Right.
Detroit had quickly become a powder keg of racial tension.
That's the only thing they real serious about is their
the city
racism.
exploded into chaos. For 5 horrifying days, violence raged through the streets. Robert found himself caught in the middle of it all, watching as black residents fought back against white mob violence in a desperate attempt to save themselves. 34 people died in those riots. 25 of them were black. But something else was born in that fire. You see, an elephant raised into adulthood while chained to a chair will think that it cannot break free from its bondage. But we all know, mighty is the elephant. The scales had fallen from his eyes, and Robert realized that submission wasn't the only option. He could fight. Like many young black men of his generation, Robert was drafted into military service in 1944, but his experience would be different. He was assigned to the Marines, a branch that had only recently begun accepting African Americans. For a year and a half, Robert served as a private in the segregated Marines.
Wanna use us to get treated like a bunch of bullshit.
It was a reminder of the contradictions of fighting for democracy abroad, while facing segregation in
racist ass
uniform. The
motherfucker,
discipline,
dumbass
tactical
motherfucker,
training, and
racism.
organizational skills he learned in the Marines wouldn't go to waste. After the war ended and he returned home to Monroe, these same military experiences would shape his approach to defending his community. Robert wasn't alone. He was part of a generation of black veterans who returned home with the new
Like this shit,
skills and a
sweet
deeper
nigga.
determination to fight for their rights. They had defended America abroad. Now they would defend their communities at home. But when Robert returned to Monroe in 1955, he found a town frozen in time. The same white-only signs.
That's what I said, coon ass shit. These coon ass niggas won't fight the shit, nigga. Accept the shit that these motherfuckers doing, bro. These racist ass white people doing.
Marine who understood the power of violence, and he wasn't alone.
The fuck? You gotta call it chaos to get some freedom, nigga. Well, fight, you gonna get freedom, nigga.
But already a fierce advocate for civil rights. Despite her youth, Mabel had
You fight
already
every
seen
day,
enough
nigga.
injustice to last a lifetime.
I like Judge
She
Mathis
grew
right
up
here.
watching her own community struggle against segregation, and unlike many young women of her era, she refused to accept it quietly. While most civil rights couples preached nonviolence,
Shit.
Robert and Mabel Williams
We
believed
all
in
for the
something else
violence, nigga.
entirely. The right
Fuck is they
of
talking about,
armed
nigga?
self-defense. People like Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King, who became the faces of peaceful
Every
resistance,
guy do all
led
the
dozens
fighting.
of nonviolent
You
demonstrations
put your hands
across
on
the
us, most
South.
definitely violence, nigga.
Williams had seen
You put your hands on us,
way too much to
it's
put
up
their
to faith.
faces in
We let
passive
God do all the
resistance
fighting.
alone.
You dig what I'm
But
saying?
how would this
Put our hands,
veteran
put your hands
and
on
his
us.
young wife transform from peaceful citizens into militant leaders of their community? And and what would happen when
fight,
their
nigga.
radical ideas clashed with the non-violent mainstream of the civil rights movement. By the way, if you enjoy this type of content and want to see more videos about the heroes of Black history, please subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us and helps us spread awareness about our fight for freedom. To understand what Robert was about to do, you need to understand what the NAACP was supposed to be. Founded in 1909, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People emerged in response to the lynchings and racial violence sweeping America. It was created by Black and white progressives alike, aiming to fight discrimination through the courts and legislature. Their weapon of choice, however, were lawyers, not guns. Respectability, not resistance. When Robert Williams returned home to Monroe after his time in Detroit and the Marines, he found a town frozen in time. With a population of just 12,000, Monroe had become a stronghold of white supremacy, home to an estimated 7,500 Klan members. Yes, you heard that right. Over half of the town's population were Klan members.
Everybody's a Klan member, baby.
The local NAACP chapter was barely breathing. Like chapters across the country, they followed the national organization's preferred model, focusing on middle-class professionals like doctors, lawyers, and ministers. The kind of Black folks who wouldn't scare racist white people. The kind who fought with briefs and motions. But Robert saw things differently. When he joined the Monroe NAACP chapter in 1955 and became its president the following year, he brought with him a radical new vision. The people who needed the NAACP most weren't in courtrooms or country clubs. He went to the textile mills where Black workers endured humiliation for poverty wages.
The niggas we got today are coon ass,
where families still worked
tap
land
dancing
their
ass,
grandparents had shared.
kissing the white man's ass, fucking bozos these days, nigga. These niggas be NPCs, nigga.
Like him,
clowns.
had fought fascism abroad.
They accept it because they give money on. Nigga, nah, bitch, we want more than money on. Bitch, we want our freedom and respect, bitch. We want what's ours, everything, bitch. Fuck all this goofy ass shit, this fake ass crack of money. This white man's money. Can't wipe our ass with this goddamn money on, nigga.
And the first target was the public
only
library.
bozos accept the money on, bitch. Nah, bitch, we want all our people free, nigga.
To Black citizens.
Fuck you think this is,
wasn't
nigga?
just about books.
Clowns.
It was about the fundamental right to access public resources that Black taxpayers helped fund.
Put your hands on us like it's sweet.
The library's doors were finally open
Did you
to all citizens of Monroe,
put your hands on us because you
regardless of
policeman?
color.
Bitch,
It was a
like you
small
can't get to
victory,
work.
but a significant
Fuck out
one,
of here, nigga.
proving that organized resistance could crack the foundations of segregation. But as Robert and his followers would soon learn, some victories come with a violent backlash. In 1957, Robert led the fight to integrate Monroe's public swimming pool. The math was simple. Black taxpayers had helped pay for that pool, but their children couldn't swim in it. How absurd was that?
Crazy. They only use all our goddamn money on the energy. We can't use half the shit.
Peaceful demonstrations.
What?
NAACP members formed picket lines around the pool.
Pussy ass
What happened next would
motherfuckers, man.
change everything.
I
The
swear,
protesters
bro.
were met with a hail of gunfire. White mobs opened fire on the picket lines, and despite law enforcement officers being present, not a single arrest was made. The message was clear. The law would not protect them.
This is still happening till today, nigga. Till today. We got young Black men getting hanged till today. And women. Facts.
Robert, this was the
Nigga,
final
we still
straw.
the same time,
The
nigga.
swimming pool violence proved what he had long
They
suspected.
still doing the same
that
shit.
legal
Nigga, they use all our money
and
on
peaceful
to get into
protests
foreigners and
alone
shit.
wouldn't be enough in a
We
town
can't
where
use
the
the
Klan
goddamn money on.
operated
Our
with
money
impunity.
on.
That's when
Going to
Robert did something
Argentina and shit.
unprecedented. Drawing on his
Ukraine and
military
bullshit.
experience and connections,
The fuck?
he reached out to other Black
Fake
veterans who
Israel,
understood
like,
both
the fuck
discipline
going on?
and duty.
All our
These
Black
were men
money
who had
on.
fought fascism in
Fuck,
Europe
y'all should
and
be
the
mad like we
Pacific,
mad,
only to
nigga.
find it
You
alive
coon ass
and well
niggas.
in their hometown. They trained in military
Y'all
tactics.
just out
They
here just
fortified their
tap
homes,
dancing for
and
these
they made it
motherfuckers.
crystal clear.
Bitch ass
Any Klan
niggas.
attack would be met with equal force. This came to a
Pussy
head
ass
in the
white
summer of
man.
1957 when rumors spread that the
Pussy
Klan
ass
planned to
white
attack
man.
Dr. A. Elbert Perry, the NAACP's vice president. The Black Armed Guard fortified his house with sandbags. When the Klan opened fire from their cars, Robert's men returned fire, driving them away. The shooting made headlines, but the real story was what happened next. The same city officials who had always defended the Klan's constitutional right to organize suddenly changed their tune.
Oh.
Within days, they called an emergency session and passed a city ran from Monroe without special permission from the police chief. For the black community of Monroe, this was a turning point. Robert himself explained it best in his book, Negroes with Guns. Racists consider themselves superior beings and are not willing to exchange their superior lives for our inferior ones. They are most vicious and violent when they can practice violence with impunity. The ordinance requiring clan gatherings to get police permission marked the first time the local government had ever restricted clan activities in Monroe. The message was clear. Organized armed resistance had achieved what decades of peaceful petitions could not. But this success came at a price. The incident drew the attention of not just local authorities, but the FBI. Robert's insurance company canceled his car insurance, citing the frequent attacks on his vehicle. Even some of his allies began to worry that his methods might provoke even more violent retaliation. While Robert's armed defense strategy had gained the black community some measure of protection, the deeper rot of racial injustice in Monroe was
they just want us to sit there and take it. Beat the light, all the white man, bitch, fuck y'all, pussies.
We're playing together in
war,
Monroe,
nigga.
the kind of scene that would raise
ain't no shit, nigga, it's war, nigga.
A white girl gave two black boys,
you know, shit, nigga. Y'all be on some racist ass shit. Y'all whole fucking racist.
Expose the brutal reality of Southern
but
justice.
But you always be like, well, it's a couple of good white people. The rest of these bitch ass motherfuckers who been fucking us up, nigga. Fuck all the shit.
Schoolboys from their homes. They were charged with assault for receiving a kiss in a children's game.
Till today, nigga. Bitch ass motherfucker got me fucked up, nigga.
The local courts showed no mercy.
Racist ass shit, nigga.
One just 7 years old, the other 9 were sentenced to reform school until they turned 21. In other words, a childhood game had earned them a 14-year sentence.
Crazy.
The boys were beaten.
Crazy.
Their parents weren't allowed to visit them for weeks. For Robert, this case crystallized everything
for playing with guns, like toy guns. I can't
protect against the Klan. But what about the legal system itself? This time, he decided to fight fire with publicity. Robert launched a media campaign that would make Monroe front-page news across the globe. He contacted newspapers worldwide. He organized protests. He made sure everyone knew about 2 little boys torn from their families, beaten, and imprisoned, all for a childhood kiss. The international response was overwhelming. Civil rights activists across America rallied to the cause. European newspapers ran scathing editorials. Even Eleanor Roosevelt, the former First Lady, spoke out against this travesty of justice. Under this intense global pressure, North Carolina's governor was forced to act. The boys were finally released and pardoned. The state never apologized for its actions, and the incident revealed to the world the brutal injustice that black citizens of Monroe faced daily. The kissing case had exposed Monroe's racial injustice to the world, but it had also revealed something else. The power of Robert's increasingly militant approach to civil rights, where traditional NAACP
14 years of prison for kissing is insane, no matter who
Robert
it is.
Turned a local injustice into international
and what they
news.
kiss?
For the NAACP's national leadership, this was the final straw. Robert's
history, black people.
had already made them nervous.
Know the truth of who we really are, warriors. Nigga, ain't never no pussy ass
drawing
nigga.
attention they didn't want. By 1959, the tension between Robert's militant approach and the NAACP's traditional strategy would reach a breaking point. A confrontation was coming that would force the entire civil rights movement to grapple with a crucial question. In the face of violent oppression, was nonviolence the only acceptable response? By 1959, Robert's confrontational approach had put him on a collision course with the NAACP's national leadership when he publicly responded to a Monroe court's decision to acquit 2 white men of raping a pregnant black woman. His words would ignite a firestorm. Standing on the courthouse steps, Robert declared that if the courts wouldn't protect black citizens, they would have to protect themselves.
Nothing happened?
The NAACP leadership, committed to their nonviolent approach, suspended him from his position. But Robert wasn't done.
Boys kissing
from the NAACP
a girl or some shit?
to pursue even more militant
14 years of prison?
Through 1960 and early 1961, the tensions in Monroe continued to simmer. By 1961, the law was clear, at least on paper. The Supreme Court had ruled segregation on interstate buses and terminals unconstitutional, first with Morgan versus Virginia in 1946, and again with Boynton versus Virginia in 1960. But across the American South, these federal rulings meant nothing without enforcement. In In May 1961, an interracial group of activists decided to test these laws themselves. They called themselves the Freedom Riders, and their mission was deceptively simple: travel on interstate buses through the South, challenging the segregation that the Supreme Court had already declared illegal. The response was swift and brutal. In Anniston and Birmingham, Alabama, the Freedom Riders faced devastating violence. As law enforcement stood by watching, white mobs attacked the riders with shocking brutality. In Anniston, their bus was firebombed. In Birmingham, they were beaten as police conveniently disappeared.
They just want us to be happy.
15 minutes of the assault.
These truckers fucking
Robert and
stupid.
MLK had long differed on tactics. While King preached nonviolence, Robert argued that triumph depended on the adversary.
That's what I said. All these niggas today don't speak on nothing about what's going on in the world, bro. Or look like fucking clowns, bozos,
In May 1961, as Freedom Riders faced brutal violence across the South,
real niggas don't fight.
He sent King a direct telegram challenging him
Ain't
to
let this
do more
shit
than
slide,
lead from
nigga.
afar. No sincere leader asks his
I'm a
followers
real
to
nigga,
make sacrifices that he himself will not endure. You are a phony. If you lack the courage, remove from the vanguard. Now is the time for true leaders to take to the field of battle. If leaders believed in nonviolent resistance, they should physically participate with their fellow protesters on the front lines.
Damn.
2 months later, when the Freedom Riders finally reached Monroe, they would find themselves caught between these two philosophies.
And the leaders who was practicing it didn't go on the line of march with them niggas.
They would need both.
Oh,
Drawing
shit.
on his military experience
What
and
the
the discipline
hell?
of the Black Armed Guard,
How you practice nonviolence
the
but
riders'
don't
the stakes
march
were
with them?
clear. Monroe's clan, over
niggas
7,000
killed.
strong in a
Yeah.
town of just
Told
12,000,
niggas.
had promised violence. The Freedom Riders came to Monroe determined to demonstrate the effectiveness of civil disobedience and challenge segregation laws, but they found something unprecedented: a black community ready not just to support them, but to defend them.
You did.
For 2 weeks, the protests continued, but as hostile white observers gathered, the situation grew increasingly tense. The riders, recognizing the danger, called for the aid of the Black Armed Guard.
Damn, real niggas.
On August 27th, violence erupted. White supremacist mobs attacked the riders and caused chaos in the local neighborhood. In the midst of this turmoil, a white couple driving into the area found themselves caught in the chaos. What happened next would change everything. Robert, seeing the couple in danger, rescued them and brought them to his house for safety. But what he saw as an act of humanity, local authorities would twist into something far more sinister.
Oh, shit.
What began as a Freedom Ride demonstration in Monroe quickly spiraled into chaos on August 27th, 1961. As violence erupted throughout the local neighborhood, a white couple, Bruce and Mabel Stengel, drove their car into the midst of the turmoil. In a moment that would test Robert's principles, he faced a crucial choice. The crowd had recognized the Steagles car, the same vehicle that had recently displayed hostile segregationist messages. But rather than allow any harm to come to them, Robert did something that defied the mob's expectations. He brought the couple into his home for protection. With the Steggals safely inside, Robert tried to use this moment to help others in danger. He called Police Chief A.A. Monet, attempting to negotiate medical care for Freedom Riders who had been jailed and denied treatment. The response from Chief Monet chilled Robert to the bone. "You'll be hanging from the courthouse square in 30 minutes." This wasn't just a threat. In Monroe, it was a real possibility. White police authorities were already working to frame Robert's protection of the Steggals as a kidnapping, despite the fact that the couple never reported any abduction after leaving his house. The propaganda was already being made. Within hours, the situation had transformed. This wasn't just another confrontation with local authorities.
Man, these racist ass white people,
in Charlotte, charging Robert with kidnapping, despite the fact that the Steggals never reported any abduction.
I tell y'all niggas, some of the most realest niggas in the world, last name be Williams, nigga.
And the very real threat of violence,
some of the realest niggas in the world, they last name is Williams, nigga.
To make an impossible decision. They fled Monroe, beginning a journey that would take them first to Cuba by way of Canada and Mexico. But exile didn't silence Robert. It amplified his voice. In Cuba, with Fidel Castro's approval and government assistance, he established Radio Free Dixie in 1962. This groundbreaking program, which aired in the U.S. and Canada, combined jazz and blues with sharp commentary on the American government. That same year, Robert published his seminal work, Negroes with Guns. book detailed his experiences with violent racism and laid out his fundamental disagreement with the nonviolent wing of the civil rights movement.
Niggas we got today.
His words would later profoundly influence Huey
P.
Newton, founder of the Black Panther Party. After 5 years in Cuba,
don't have nothing to fight, don't fight for shit, nigga. They ain't got no balls, no nothing, nigga. They no aura, no shit, nigga.
Against racism,
coon ass
colonialism,
just to distract niggas. You know what I'm saying?
In Vietnam, he even met
with not talking about nothing real, nigga. These niggas ain't trying to help niggas out, nigga. These niggas be coon ass niggas. They just want the money on. Get where they fit in, hit ass niggas.
Where he continued to publish his
newsletter,
The Crusader. His presence there deepened the connection between the Communist Party of China and the African-American Revolutionary Movement. In a historic moment, he received the honor of meeting with Mao Zedong, who issued statements supporting the African-American struggle against discrimination. By late 1969, Robert and Mabel returned to the United States.
Why the black people so mad?
In Michigan.
Why are they so angry? Why the black people so angry? It doesn't make sense to me. Goofy asses. Shut y'all bitch asses up.
Extradition request, noting that Robert couldn't receive a fair trial there. The legal shadow wouldn't lift until 1975, when Robert was finally able to face the charges. In January 1976, nearly 15 years after he fled Monroe, North Carolina prosecutors dismissed all charges against him, acknowledging their main witness was too weak to appear in court. Robert's story wasn't just about one man's fight for justice. It was about challenging the very framework of how civil rights could be won. At a time when nonviolence was considered the only acceptable path, he dared to argue for the fundamental right of self-defense. His influence would ripple through generations of civil rights activists, reshaping the movement in ways that would be felt long after his death in 1996. At his funeral,
he died in 1996.
Praising him for his courage
and
for his commitment to freedom.
Rosa Parks.
Her words captured what many had come to understand.
Y'all know there's another lady before Rosa Parks who did the same exact thing, but the only reason she didn't get famous because she was black, dark skinned, and Rosa Parks she was light skinned.
While Dr. King preached turning the other cheek, Robert showed there was another way. Not better, not worse, just different.
The other lady didn't make it because she was dark skinned. Rosa Parks was light skinned, so they put her shit first.
He proved that armed resistance wasn't just about guns. It was about dignity, about standing up straight in a world trying to keep you on your knees.
Rosa Parks, and this is a real black woman. The black woman we got today, there's no comparison to who Rosa Parks was. She helped black niggas out. The women we got today, they destroy niggas. They take everything niggas got. They use niggas. They betray niggas. They don't even want to help niggas. This was a real nigga. This was a real woman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Royalty Now. Today we'll be talking about one of the bravest women in American history, Harriet Tubman.
We have today in this society.
Known as the Moses of her people, she escaped slavery and made it her life's mission to help rescue others.
These women these days
we'll also bring her back to life with some recreations at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and get started.
Panties. The women today. She a real woman.
Around 1820, Harriet Tubman was born Araminta Ross on a plantation in Dorchester County, Maryland. Her father, Ben Ross, was a skilled woodworker, and her mother, Harriet Green, also called by the nickname Rit, were both enslaved on separate plantations.
She's a real woman.
After getting married in 1808, they would have 9 children together, including Araminta, who they called Minty. All 9 children grew up together on the same plantation, which tragically wasn't normal for enslaved families. But things would change in 1825 when Edward Brodess, who was the stepson of their plantation owner, claimed to legally own Rit and her children. He would take them away to his own plantation, separating them from their father for the first time. Not long after, he sold 3 of Harriet's sisters, Lina, Mariah, and Soph. Harriet would never see them again. Harriet's mother would forever have nightmares about this, and when Edward came with a traitor to sell her youngest son, Moses, Rit was determined not to let it happen again. She hid Moses in her home, and she bravely confronted Edward, saying, "You are after my son, and the first man that comes into my house, I will split his head open." It may have been the anger in her voice, or maybe just the utter despair, but Edward Brodus believed her, and he abandoned the sale. This moment changed young Harriet's life forever. She had seen firsthand that resistance could work, and it may have lit the rebellious spark in her heart. Now, from a very early age, Harriet had had to learn to care for her baby brothers when her mother was away, which was most of the time, and she really became their sole caregiver. But when Edward Brodus noticed how motherly she was with her siblings, he hired a 5-year-old Harriet out as a nursemaid. Just a child herself, she was required to fully care for a baby. Later in her life, Harriet recalled having to stay awake all night to rock the cradle. Every time the baby cried, Harriet would be whipped around the neck.
Dirty ass bitches.
On one particular night, she was lashed 5 times before breakfast. For years, she endured this, and later describes this period as a time of severe neglect, with the scars on her neck to prove it. When she was finally considered strong enough to work in the fields, she never looked back, and later said that she much preferred the long, hard days of physical work to the cruel and unfair judgment of the women in the homes. She began to become religious, finding a strong faith in God and using it as a steadying force in her chaotic life. Even after these years of harsh punishment, Harriet had not lost that spark of resistance. When she was around 12 years old, she was sent to the general store one day to do some shopping. But on her way there, she caught sight of a man being chased and immediately knew that he was a runaway. As his pursuers got closer, Harriet purposely stood her ground, getting in the way of an irate overseer. The overseer then grabbed a heavy weight from the store counter, intending to hit the runaway, but instead, he hit Harriet directly in the head.
I heard about that.
They carried me to the house all bleeding and fainting. I had no bed, no place to lie down on at all, and they laid me on the seat of the loom, and I stayed there all day and the next.
They help her?
But she would soon be sent back to the fields, even though it would take her months to fully recover. Upset with her production, her enslaver even tried to sell her during this time, but nobody would buy her in the state that she was in.
Damn.
After the severe head trauma, she had frequent headaches and fits of narcolepsy. She also had gained vivid dreams and hallucinations. Now, being incredibly religious, she began to interpret her visions as signs from God. Harriet would remain religious for the rest of her life, and she would rely on her faith to get her through the tough times ahead.
Real, man. He do be sending dreams.
In the early 1840s, Harriet's family had one stroke of luck. Her father, Ben, was set free. His whole life, Ben had been a skilled and diligent woodworker, and in return, his enslaver put in his will that at the age of 45, Ben would be given his freedom. This arrangement was called manumission, and it was really common in Maryland at the time, where about half of the black population was already free.
That's the sad part. It is a different type of slavery.
Now, Ben and his wife Rit were thought to be around the same age, so when he turned 45, she hoped that she would be freed as well. But as the months went by, her hope turned into bitter disappointment. The family saved enough to hire a lawyer to look into Rit's status, just to make sure. When the lawyer came back with his findings, the family was shocked. A former owner had also made provisions for Rit to be freed at 45, and the provision extended to her children as well, including Harriet. Their enslaver, Edward Brodus, in his cruelty and possibly because of Rit's rebellion so long ago, simply ignored the will. Even though they had a legal document stating that they should be free, the family knew that suing him for freedom would be a Herculean task. There was nothing that could be done. Harriet's mother and siblings were once again denied something that should have never been taken away in the first place: their freedom. It seems to be at this moment that Harriet decides she would not let herself live like this forever. In 1844, Harriet married a free black man named John Tubman. And this is when we see she changes her name from Araminta Ross to how we know it as Harriet Tubman.
Oh, shit.
Many historians believe that her changing her first name to Harriet may have been a tribute to her mother, the woman who showed her it was possible for a slave to resist.
If we had more women like this in this generation, nigga, you know how many black men will have the strength to actually fight back?
But then in 1849, Edward Brodess
if we actually had women
and the
actually
likelihood that Harriet's family would be forcibly separated became extremely high. Edward's widow Eliza began to break up the estate to pay for Edward's debts, and Harriet realized that it was now or never.
The world is so fucking
there was
different.
One of two things I had a right to: liberty or death.
The black
if I
woman
could not
for the
have
white
one,
man,
I would have
the black
the
man
other.
being cool and fucking tap dancers is just
On
like,
September
bro.
17, 1849, Harriet and her two brothers, Ben and Henry, made their astonishing bid for freedom.
Nigga.
But miles from the plantation, when the weight of their actions had become real, the two brothers had second thoughts. Her brother Ben had just become a father, and he realized he couldn't bring himself to leave his new family.
Jail system.
Against every fiber of her being, Harriet returned with her brothers, showing an unfathomable amount of selflessness.
They get illegal immigrants like
Not long
Haitians
after her
and
return, she escaped once again, but this time she did it alone.
Today.
Over the course of the next 3 weeks,
you know
she traveled the harrowing 90
Haitians,
miles to the Mason-Dixon line, using contacts she had developed on the Underground Railroad, hiding in friendly houses during the day, and traveling through the night using the North Star to guide her.
Beans and cotton and shit, nigga.
Finally, she reached the free state of Pennsylvania.
Nigga, this shit is real.
When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person.
You know what I'm saying? Like, straight bitch, man.
There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven. Harriet Tubman was now a free woman. She made her way to Philadelphia and began to work odd jobs. But it was during these days that she described herself as feeling like a stranger in a strange land. In the long days alone, she realized that even though she was free, she could only think of her mother, brothers, and sisters. They should be there with her. They should be free. And she became determined to make it a reality.
And they want to act like they're the victim. White people want to do all this racist ass shit.
In 1850, some of the most nefarious legislation in U.S. history was passed, the Fugitive Slave Act. Now, there was already an existing version of this act passed in 1793, which allowed for local governments to seize and return escaped slaves to their owners. But this early act at least required proof of ownership and a jury trial. Many Northerners abhorrent to slavery simply ignored this law. But this new version of the act denied the escapees the right to even a trial. It effectively allowed legally free blacks in the North to be captured and enslaved in the South. Both Fugitive Slave Acts were met with extreme criticism from the North. Thankfully, many men chose the side of good and refuted the institution of slavery fully and completely.
Black people, we fight for them,
Some
help
people,
them out.
like John Brown and Levi Coffin, felt like it was their mission from God to help enslaved people escape the hellish reality of the South. It was men and women like these who were now helping expand the Underground Railroad. The network of free people, both black and white, that were helping guide slaves to freedom was now growing dramatically. More and more men and women chose to help enslaved people escape, and not just to the northern states, but all the way to Canada. But the risks were now also greater. The new Fugitive Slave Act had both raised the bounty on recovered fugitives and increased the punishment for those who aided them.
I'm about
to get my mind for those who aided them.
You helping these Uncle Tom ass niggas the whole time? They secret agents to try to take you down.
Now, due to the nature of what Harriet did during this part of her life, and the fact that she never wrote anything down, details of this time are sometimes unclear. After nearly 2 years as a free woman, saving money from odd jobs, Harriet missed her husband. So she decided to travel back south to Dorchester County for the first time since her escape. Her original intention had been to convince her husband to move to Philadelphia with her. But when she arrived, she found that he had remarried, and he insisted that he was happy with his new life.
They got divorced.
Obviously upset, Harriet was hell-bent on making a scene. But before she did, she realized he wasn't worth it.
Yep.
She was still considered a runaway, and she refused to let herself be noticed. She would instead hear the voices of a group of slaves that had been wanting to make their escape. And since she already knew the way, she agreed to become their guide. This would become Harriet's first trip, guiding a group of her people to freedom.
That's a real bitch.
Over the next 11 years, Harriet became a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and then became an organizer and a leader.
Be up. But we got too many
She would go back at least 13 times, first to save her sisters and her nieces and nephews, then
breaking
her
niggas down and
brothers,
kissing the white man's ass.
and finally her mother and father.
You know what I'm saying? No fight
Over
for
the
shit.
years, Harriet would become a master at evading capture. If she didn't guide families directly, she would give them special instructions in order to help them survive the journey.
Dumbass
Like
niggas.
leave on a
We got real
Saturday,
niggas. Y'all wanna
since
take real
newspapers
niggas
don't
out?
print
Y'all
runaway
some
notices
bitch ass
until
niggas.
Monday mornings.
You niggas don't fight
And
for shit,
leave
you
on the
bitch ass
longest,
niggas.
coldest
You
nights
want
of
what we
winter
got?
because it
You
means people
bitch
are
ass
more
niggas
likely
ain't
to
fight
stay
for shit,
inside
you
their
bitch
warm
ass
homes
niggas.
instead of
But
being
you
out
wanna
on
take us
patrol.
out because you bitch ass niggas ain't
Another way that
nothing.
Harriet
You
reportedly
lazy ass
communicated her
niggas.
instructions was through song.
But you wanna kiss these crackers asses, these white people asses,
Songs
you
were used in
pussies.
everyday life by enslaved people, a tradition brought back
Bitch ass
generations ago
motherfuckers.
from Africa. Now, sometimes they were just motivation, a way to pass the long, repetitive
Tired
days
of
in the
these bitch ass
fields.
motherfuckers, man.
And sometimes they were code. Although its origin is sometimes
Pussy ass
disputed, with
niggas.
historians
We went
saying
through
it
all
was
this
written
shit.
much later.
Bitch ass niggas don't know how
Folklore
to fight
says
for
that
shit.
Harriet used a spiritual song called Follow the Drinking Gourd to signal a potential escape. The drinking gourd itself was code for the constellation that we call the Big Dipper, which points to the North Star.
Fight for some shit.
This song
Do
actually
something.
contains some of the more explicit
Bitch ass niggas
instructions of
that
escape.
stealing and taking from niggas. And holding niggas
There
and
were
killing
many
niggas.
different songs that are now said to
Fight
have
for
been
some
used,
shit.
but most of them reference the Bible.
Bitch ass
The
niggas.
Promised Land was code for Canada. The River Jordan was the Ohio River. And Moses became code for the woman that was leading them to freedom. But the life of a conductor was hard and dangerous. Harriet was determined to guide families to freedom, but she was also forced to make hard decisions just to keep them safe.
We got too many coon ass niggas, man.
She would sometimes
Harriet was
drug
a real
babies
one.
and children
If
just
you
to
was a
keep
coon
them
ass
from
nigga,
crying.
she shoot your, she take
She
your ass
also
out.
always carried
Harriet
a
was a real
pistol,
one.
and
She had the
not just
strap.
for
She
personal
take your
protection.
coon ass out.
Any man or woman who lost their nerve who
If you was a
tried to
coon ass
turn
nigga,
back
she take your
was a
pussy
huge
ass out.
liability for the whole
Simple.
group. It wasn't infrequent that
She was a
Harriet would have
real
to
one,
threaten
nigga.
to shoot someone from the group who was trying to defect.
See?
In many cases,
See?
Harriet would disguise herself, often dressing as a man or an elderly woman, like other conductors of the Underground Railroad.
She had to shoot niggas
But
who
no matter
tried to
how
take her
hard
out.
the journey,
Cause
Harriet
they was fake,
always
coon
made
ass
it to
niggas,
the other
Uncle Tom
side.
ass niggas. But you got a lot of them.
Although the exact number of escapees she
Can't trust
guided is
nobody, nigga.
unknown,
True.
Harriet herself
Take a bullet
reported
to
a
the dog,
modest
book for
70
me.
escapes, whereas her
Sorry, shit.
biography estimated
Nigga.
300. She proudly stated
She a
that she
real ass
never
nigga.
lost a
I know she
passenger.
in heaven. She a real ass nigga.
Harriet would have undoubtedly continued to work for the Underground Railroad. But in 1861, the Civil War broke out, and she saw a real chance for change. It could only happen if the Union won the war. She joined a group of abolitionists in Philadelphia and volunteered in the Union camps as a nurse and a cook.
If this was
Once
happening
there,
right
Harriet
now,
became
and it was
quickly
Civil War,
known for her
and we had to go
bravery.
against like
While
that
others were
happened,
too scared to treat the soldiers that had contracted
I swear,
smallpox, Harriet did
this
so
fake ass
without
war we got going
hesitation.
on now, bitch, I ain't going
When she
none of
didn't
that shit.
contract the
That's fake ass
disease,
white man
rumors
shit.
began to spread
This
around the
shit was real
camp
for black
that she
people.
may actually be blessed by God. When Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing all of the slaves still held in the South, Harriet knew that she could do more for the war effort.
Look at they got the black man.
In early 1863, Harriet was allowed to lead a group of scouts through marshlands in South Carolina. Her years as a conductor allowed the team to avoid detection and map out the entire area, providing crucial intel for the Union Army. She was soon recruited by the Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton, for a mission that she would never forget. On June 2nd, 1863, Harriet Tubman became the first woman to lead a successful armed assault during the Civil War, when her and 150 African-American soldiers began an attack on a collection of plantations on the Coombe River.
I would one of them niggas.
They burned much-needed Confederate crops and rice mills, and the soldiers were able to tell anyone working on the plantation that they were now free.
Yep.
When it was all said and done, Tubman and her men had liberated approximately 800 enslaved people from the plantations.
We would have been like Bonnie and Clyde.
Many of the men liberated that day would join the Union Army, and in 1865, the Union won the Civil War.
We have been taking all.
After nearly 20 years of fighting for the freedom of her people, Harriet was now able to see the day that all of them were free.
Nothing like this woman. Anyway.
To see the
they
day
care about how cute they look. Nigga, we need somebody who can get down and dirty, bitch. Fight for some.
Finally allowing herself to settle down, Harriet would buy a small farm in Auburn, New York, and move her parents there to live with her. She would soon fall in love and marry a man named Nelson Davis, and the two would adopt a daughter named Gertie. For the rest of Harriet's life, she would remain on her farm with her family and continue being an activist for women's rights.
Nigga.
On March 10, 1913, after a long life of service to others, Harriet Tubman died, surrounded by her loved ones. Unfathomably selfless, brave, and cunning, she rose to the challenge of her time, and against all odds, she led her people to the promised land.
We don't have too many of them these days, man. Nah.
So let's talk briefly about Harriet's appearance and then bring her to life. We're lucky enough to have a few photographs of Harriet, one of which was just discovered a few years ago.
Oh, shit.
This photograph was taken around 1868, when Harriet would have been in her early 40s.
Damn.
She's wearing nice, middle-class clothing and looks every bit as strong and determined as what you'd imagine. It's hard to tell, but it does look a little bit like the head injury she suffered at the age of 12 affected her face. You can see a slight lazy eye in her right eye and a downturned lip on the same side.
Yeah.
The same can be seen on images of Tubman as she aged as well.
Yeah.
I've used the 1868 photograph for my recreation, and since we don't have any images of Tubman as a young woman, I've created a young version, as well as then aged her up to match her older photographs. So let's see Harriet Tubman brought to life now.
You know what I'm saying? That's a bad bitty. Oh yeah, she most definitely got bad. Bad bitty. Yeah, she most definitely got bad. Yeah, she most definitely got bad. Yeah, I would have, but nigga, let's go on the run, bitch. Let's go free these slaves, nigga. What? You ain't hear me tell me, nigga. Good. Yeah. Harriet Tubman, let's go on the run. Let's go free these slaves, nigga. Go against the KKK and shit. Harriet Tubman. Let's do some real shit around this bitch. For real. R.I.P., man. You don't have too many real women like this, man. I'm just being honest, man. It always sounds like I'm being repetitive, but it just, it really is. The gratitude of what's really going on. We ain't got no real niggas or real bitches these days, nigga. They still been bitch niggas. NPCs. Cool ass niggas. You gotta be racist ass white people, they ain't gonna change, nigga. You know what I'm saying? So we need some real niggas. She ain't never smiled, nigga. Harriet Tubman, R.I.P. You a real one. You better be a real one. And we appreciate
Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you all for the next video.
Alright, we're back. So, I want to say, it's so many more people that help fight against white supremacy and the KKK. But we only got so much time to talk about Black history. You know what I'm saying? We live Black history every day. You know what I'm saying? We create new heroes fighting against white supremacy and the KKK every day. You know what I'm saying? So these are the people who will help keep what we got to what we we all remember who we are as people, and to wake up these coon, buffoon-ass niggas, females and niggas, to learn that we are the same people. We gotta win together. We can't just kiss the white man's ass, because they gonna be racist no matter what. Even if you tell them the truth, show us who we are. Yeah, you might have some people, some white people who want to help us out, but all together, bruh, a lot of motherfuckers don't want to see us win, and they will try everything in their power to keep us down. So it's like, we gotta work together, you know what I'm saying? And we learn a lot from the history about when we work together, but we can win. And Harriet Tubman was a real one. If you went against her, she popped your ass. You gone. So it just goes to show you, man, like, these real niggas gonna live on, and we got a lot of fake and fugazi ass niggas these days, bro. But we got the same racist ass motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying? So we just gotta keep on fighting and wake up real niggas, and us keep on being real niggas and fight. And we got this bitch hood and outside, big crip and gang outside shit.
Hey, Dad, you know, dog, when we link up, dog, this shit be legendary. Even though this is instrumental, you the engineer on it, so Kodak everywhere.